and welcome to Nothing Ever Happens in Canada. But we know this is simply not true. This is a Canadian podcast about the myths, legends, and just good old stories Canada has to tell. I'm Canadian Girl. Thanks for joining me today on this bonus episode about Halloween in Canada. If you've been on our other holiday bonus adventures, we also did one for Canada Day, Christmas, and Valentine's Day. So this will be very similar to those adventures, but a little spookier. If you're looking for even more haunted adventures to go on after this bonus one today, and you haven't already been on them, try Season 1, Episode 6, The Most Haunted City in Canada, where we go on a tour of the very famously haunted city of Kingston, Ontario. Or Season 1, Episode 16, which was a listener request. We went on a tour of the old Riverview Psychiatric Hospital in Coquitlam, BC. The grounds themselves are claimed to be some of the most haunted in Canada. There's also a bonus crossover episode I did with my friend Chris from the Straight Up Strange crew, and he's the host of Obscure Anomalies. We went on a tour around the Great Lakes just a few weeks ago searching for the ghost fleet of the Great Lakes. Do make sure you check out all those spooky adventures. Now let's start celebrating Halloween in Canada. A little bit of Halloween history first on this spooky night. A tradition said to come from the ancient Celtic festival, celebrating the end of the harvest season, and the day believed the souls of the dead were closest to earth and you could possibly run into one of them. The tradition of carving pumpkins would come around the 1800s, when the Irish and the Scottish came over and began to share their culture with us. They were known to carve turnips and potatoes, lighting them with candles inside, just as we do today with our jack-o'-lanterns. They do this to guide the good souls to their homes. The tradition goes back to an Irish legend of a man known as Stingy Jack. He was known to play tricks on the devil himself, so when he passed away, heaven didn't want him, nor did the devil, and the devil banished him to forever walk the night for his tricks. But the devil did give Jack an ember, which he placed inside a carved-out turnip. When the Scottish and the Irish came to Canada, they found the pumpkins to be the perfect solution to their tradition. They were in fact harvested just weeks before the holiday and were much easier to carve. Today, pumpkin carving contests are held all over Canada, but most notably in Nova Scotia, where whole communities are said to compete, and it's considered to be serious business, like the one near Caledonia, Nova Scotia. Another interesting myth that I did not know? You know that creepy crawly spider guy who's everywhere at Halloween trying to scare you? Well, if you see a real spider on Halloween night, it's said to be a loved one watching over you. How sweet, in a creepy Halloween sort of way. As early as 1874, Halloween masks have been for sale in the very haunted city of Kingston, Ontario, as I mentioned above, that we took a tour of back in Season 1, Episode 6. A newspaper clipping found from the Vancouver Daily World on CanadianEncyclopedia.com shows a story from 1898. It is the first known recorded record of someone dressing up in disguise on Halloween in Vancouver, BC. A link to the newspaper clipping can be found in the show notes below or on our website like always. Same with a sample of a Halloween greeting card produced by the Wolf Company in New York that was sent in 1900. It shows a sweet little girl brushing her hair with a jack-o'-lantern candy bucket hanging on the wall behind her, a book on the floor titled Magic, and the clock reads 12 o'clock. A poem at the bottom reads, "On Halloween, oh mercy me, the awfulest things that one can see, ghosts and goblins and witches too, and other things to frighten you." Greeting cards and postcards for Halloween were popular between 1900 and 1940. In the Lethbridge Herald on November 4, 1927, they made reference to a festival held in Blackie, Alberta, where the paper claims a prankster would visit houses demanding a trick or a treat. That being said, the famous trick or treat phrase we hear so much today associated with the holiday came from some small-town pranksters in Alberta, Canada. One last thing that's a very important part of the Halloween history in Canada is the orange paper boxes that children in Canada used to wear on Halloween around their neck, tied on a long string. Not only then would they ask for a treat, but also a donation for UNICEF to help children in need across the world. This method was used until 2006 when UNICEF changed their donation process to online for safety and security reasons. On average, Canadians still donate about $3 million to UNICEF every Halloween season. Thanks to Stats Canada, here are some interesting figures. There's roughly 3.4 million children out there hunting for candy this Halloween season. That's ages 17 and under as of 2017. Roughly 13 million homes ready for the invasion as of 2011. In 2010, $21.6 million in Halloween costumes were produced in Canada. Almost 90,000 tons of pumpkins are grown each season as of 2011. Next to Christmas, this is Canada's second biggest holiday according to how much we indulge. In 2014, 68% of Canadians claimed to take part in the holiday. 33% of adults claimed that they would be attending a Halloween party. The average adult who buys a costume, candy, and decorations for their own house as well spends roughly about $75 on this spooky evening. That's much more than our neighbors to the south, who average around $45 for the evening. By 2014, Halloween was estimated to be a $1 billion industry in Canada each year. Oh, and just remember, pay attention to what your neighbors are up to. In the 2001 census, 9,575 people reported that they are practicing Wicca. You never know when you might need their services. And 850 people claim to worship Satan himself by practicing Satanism, so be careful around those ones. I've come across quite a few spooky town names. And I mean, there's quite a few. It's no wonder Canada doesn't have a much creepier reputation, with places like Coffin Cove, Newfoundland, Labrador, Backside of Hell Cove, Newfoundland, Labrador, Tear Fear Pond, Newfoundland, Labrador, Burnt Head, Nova Scotia, Bloody Creek, Nova Scotia, which is a National Historic Site, Coffin Brook, New Brunswick, Gore, Quebec, Lake Scare, Quebec, Wolf Howl Lake, Ontario, Howell Island, Ontario, Ghoul Lake, Ontario, Deadman's Bay near Kingston, where we learn its secret in Episode 6, Season 1, Bloodvein, Manitoba, Screech Creek, Manitoba, Phantom Beach, Saskatchewan, Hitchcock Bay, Saskatchewan, Pile of Bones, Saskatchewan, Cemetery Hill, Alberta, Haunted Lakes, Alberta, Devil's Gate, Alberta, Bone Mountain, BC, Phantom Lake, BC, Demon Creek, BC, Destruction Bay, Yukon, Skeleton Valley, Northwest Territories, Terror Island, Northwest Territories. And that's just to name a few, if you're looking for a road trip destination this spooky season. Some events that may be going on if you're around in Canada or just want to be inspired by how others are celebrating this spooky season. Near Nova Scotia, the River Breeze Bloodfields in Truro, Nova Scotia is said to be a very scary experience. 4 haunted houses can be found along with 6 corn mazes. Those that are lucky enough to escape the horror tell their stories for many years to come. Prefer some haunted food? The Five Fishermen's Restaurant in Halifax, Nova Scotia is famously known to be a haunted spot around the world, as the building itself has been linked to a couple very tragic disasters that affected many people. Before this haunted restaurant came to be, It was once a Victorian school and was a very well-known funeral home, John Snow & Co., located on Argyle Street, who once housed many of the deceased from the Titanic accident in 1912, and then again in 1917 during the Halifax explosion. If you're interested in some of the history, we went over the tragic accident in Season 1, Episode 2. These two tragedies have left this location with some very unsettled souls who have been known to slam doors, move chairs, and send glasses flying off the shelves in front of staff and guests when no one is visibly in the area. Near the tiny island in the sea known as PEI, there is a very haunted attraction known as Motel 6, found in Cavendish, PEI, in the Cavendish Beach Adventure Zone, designed to look like an old motel haunted by the former owner. And on Sundays from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m., the motel turns into the Circus Curse. The theme then switches over to the Clown Motel Nightmare. Near New Brunswick, check out Metaquac Scare Fair, located in Metaquac Provincial Park. I hope I said that close to right. Just east of Fredericton. Take a wagon ride through the campgrounds renamed Bouville for the spooky occasion. The park is transformed with zombies walking around, chainsaws going off in the distance. Take a ride down the Terror Trail if you dare. All you need to get into this event? A non-perishable food item. Hanging around Quebec this Halloween? Make sure you take a spooky tour. They are available all over from many different companies in Montreal, Quebec City, and more. You'll get the chance to visit unique buildings, haunted houses, cemeteries, and more. For example, in Montreal, the Montreal Ghost Company will provide you with a professional actor that will take you on an amazing haunted story around the town, even stopping at places where some pretty scary things have happened. In Ontario, on this spooky day, head to Church Street in Toronto for Canada's biggest Halloween party every year. Dressing in costume is encouraged as 6 city blocks are shut down for the amazing event. It is also said some of the costumes can be very scary. Looking for something to do with the little ones? Brick or Treat at Legoland Discovery Centre in Toronto from October 4th to 31st. There's ghost chasing, Brick or Treat, which is collecting Lego pieces, a dance party, and more. Costumes are encouraged any day of the week. Bump in the Night at the Zoo in Toronto takes you on a late moonlight walk where you can listen to the wolves howl and learn about the nocturnal animals. Canada's Wonderland just outside of Toronto hosts a Halloween haunt. The amusement park shuts down nightly to transform into a scream park. Everything from shows, haunted houses, spooky rides, music, and actors all over the park. I have personally been to this exciting event, and if you are ever in the area, please go. I highly recommend it. It is definitely not for children, please be warned. Haunt Manor in Niagara Falls is named Canada's #1 Halloween attraction in the country, located just west of the Battle of Lundy's Lane. Many people report seeing ghosts and other unexplained events in the area. The property has 7 themed haunted houses. The themes change each year. There's a corn maze and hay rides as well. If you're looking for an event in any area, or pretty much anything related to Halloween and Canada, head over to CanadianHalloween.com. They have lists of every party, parade, event, and haunted house for every province across the country. Around Manitoba this Halloween, the Forbidden Forest and Haunted Hayride at Deer Meadows Farms in Winnipeg is one of the top-rated haunted Manitoba attractions. The Haunted Hayride takes you to the entrance of the eerie Forbidden Forest, when your frightmare begins, as the company claims, featuring over 10 different sets to discover. Grim Acres is located between Brandon, and Kenay, Manitoba. They have a goal of scaring cancer away. The spooky abandoned 1,400 square foot house allows you to explore 3 floors, themed rooms of terror, all before you enter the haunted barn. All proceeds from this event go to the Canadian Cancer Society. Bump in the Night at the Government House in Regina, which was built in 1891. The night is full of magic and mystery, rumored to be home to a mischievous ghost named Howie. Listen for creaking footsteps and eerie sounds. The Haunted Museum can be found in Moose Jaw. The evening is a frightful night meant to be explored in the dark. With a collection of over 100,000 pieces, you never know what you might find. In Alberta on Halloween night? Head to the Train of Terror, located in Mossley, Alberta, southeast of Calgary. At Aspen Crossing, there is said to be a very scary train ride that's considered to be the scariest train haunting in Canada. Visitors go on a terrifying ride. You have to move through the 6 train cars as it storms down the tracks. The Haunted Pumpkin Fest at Prairie Gardens in Alberta has been ongoing since 1956 and has attracted over 1 million people to the countryside outside of Edmonton for a month-long celebration that has everything from scarecrow making workshops to duck races. A Halloween fact? In 2014, Banff residents had to take their pumpkins indoors because a local grizzly bear had been in the area tearing up people's gardens, indicating he was looking for food before heading off to sleep for the winter. Leaving a snack on every front porch in town seemed like a very bad idea at the time. In British Columbia for the spooky season, Fright Nights at the P&E in Vancouver is your spot for all things Halloween. Dubbed Western Canada's scariest haunt, it includes 7 haunted houses, 15 rides, and 2 live shows. How about a haunted night of ziplining? Adrenaline Ziplining Tours on Vancouver Island puts on a great show with creatures moving around the woods, spooky sounds, and scary stories. A fun Halloween fact? Halloween is the only time of year Vancouver residents are allowed to light fireworks in their backyards, so the sky is said to light up on this night around the city. Hanging out in the Yukon, looking for your Halloween spirit? Head over to Arts Underground, located in Whitehorse, for a Bob Ross Halloween paint night. You're encouraged to wear your best Bob Ross costume. Up in Nunavut for the spookiest night of them all? Catch a bus to a hidden location along with the rest of the youth in town, ages 13 to 18, for Spookorama, the city of Aquala's most popular Halloween event. It includes a dance, games, and is completely drug and alcohol free. If you've been on our other holiday bonus adventures, you know that I was always able to uncover some cool postmarks that you could collect from the post offices with cool names. For example, a stamp from Christmas Island, Nova Scotia, or Love, Saskatchewan. But I could not find a Halloween one anywhere, so if I missed one, please let me know. But for right now, I'm looking at Salem, Ontario, and Canada Post. This is your opportunity to come up with a clever Halloween postmark about those witches hiding in another location. What Canada Post has done is given us an amazing collection of Haunted Canada stamps that spotlight some of our most famous ghost stories across the country. It's truly a great collection. Now let's look at some more spooky town names. Dead Creek, New Brunswick, Dead Man's Flats, Alberta, Ghost Lake, Alberta, Grim Lake, Alberta, Skull Creek, Saskatchewan, Old Witch Lake, Saskatchewan, Sleepy Hollow, Saskatchewan, Bone Lake, Manitoba, Vampire Peaks, Northwest Territories, Old Lady's Ghost Creek, Northwest Territories, Terror Point in Nunavut, Boo Mountain, BC, Murder Bay, BC, Creepy Lake, Ontario, Sleepy Hollow, Ontario, a place I have been many times and will one day tell you more about, Lake de Vampire, Quebec, Goblin Bay Cove, Newfoundland, Labrador, Freak Island, Newfoundland, Labrador, Broomstick Island, Nova Scotia, Hell Reef, Nova Scotia. So yeah, be careful where you break down in Canada. Some of these places sound pretty scary. So which province is the spookiest of them all? I pondered this over and over and tried to come up with some way to prove why one was more haunted than another. Truth be told, I'd say it's a 3-way tie between Quebec, Ontario, and BC. While I'm not saying the other provinces and territories don't have their fair share of spookiness, I'm just saying these 3 seem to be at the top, as they all have so many spooky stories to tell. If you have a different opinion, let me know. I'd love to hear it. The most haunted city in Canada time and time again is claimed to be Kingston, Ontario, where we went on a tour in Season 1, Episode 6, like I mentioned before. But there is also Niagara-on-the-Lake in Ontario, which is claimed to be right on Kingston's coattails for that claim of being the most haunted city in Canada. So I promise you, we will go exploring to see what we can find there too. And then, of course, there's all those ghosts running around Montreal and Vancouver too. So what's our favorite costumes this Halloween season, you ask? According to VancouverIsAwesome.com, which is a great name, this year's top 8 most searched Halloween costumes in Canada are 8. The Unicorn, 7. Maleficent, 6. Alien, 5. Witch, 4 is Harley Quinn, 3. Powderpuff Girls, 2. The Joker, and number 1, Pennywise. The top 5 most popular candies or chocolates in Canada are, and we're going to look at these in a versus style, according to Food Network Canada or Reader's Digest Canada. Food Network Canada, number 5, Snickers. Reader's Digest, number 5, Reese Peanut Butter Cups. Food Network Canada, number 4, Nerds. Reader's Digest, number 4, Snickers. Number 3, Kit Kat. Number 3, Fun Dip. Number 2, Skittles. Number 2, Nerds. And number 1 for Food Network, Reese Peanut Butter Cups. Number 1 for Reader's Digest, Gobstoppers. So yeah, here in Canada, we like Pennywise, Reese Peanut Butter Cups, and Gobstoppers, just in case you ever need to remember that. 26% of parents admit to stealing from their kids' stash as soon as they fall asleep or go to school the next day. I'd say there's still a few of you fibbing. That number should be much higher. Be careful, Santa is listening. My personal top 5 candies or chocolates would be number 5, Sweet Tarts. Number 4, Snickers. Number 3, Skittles. Number 2, Sour Patch Kids. And number 1, my favorite chocolate bar, O. Henry. What's your top candy choices? Let me know. They just might show up in the mail as a nice Halloween treat. I hope you enjoyed this Halloween bonus adventure across the country. And I hope you learned some interesting stuff or maybe found an event in your area you might not have known about. Please donate to UNICEF if you can. It's a great Canadian Halloween tradition to be a part of. Be safe, have fun. Kids, get lots and lots of candy and chocolate, because you know your mom and dad is going to steal it when you're not looking. Remember to be nice to the spiders that you see on this night. They are your loved ones, stopping in to say hello. Oh, and if you happen to run into Pennywise this Halloween, and he's holding Reese Peanut Butter Cups in one hand and Gobstoppers in the other, don't fear, it's just a friendly Canadian out for this great and wonderful night. I'm Canadian Girl. Happy Halloween, my friends.